necessarily know the line of events that took them there, but we know. Right.
They're dead, and we know how it ends. You know what, dude? John, 100,000 years ago, you're John, the bounty hunter, Levingood, and you're hunting down Chuck Mad Dog Finley. It's like pitch black, but you're hunting that thing down. And it takes control of the ship, and you're like, we're going up on a planet. Oh, well, we can't crash land it on a normal area, so you crash land it in an Arctic basin. Who knows how much more ice there was 100,000 years ago. But you crash land it because you're like, I gotta save the world. And that's a better prequel. It's like Alien. Basically, it's just Alien with you as John. What was your name? The bounty hunter Levingood. Crashed in a plane to save humanity.
Well, I mean, it would be a lot more appropriate than a damn near scene-by-scene remake that we just say happened a little earlier.
Yeah. So, I guess that's better than just saying no, correct? To the prequel.
Correct, yeah. But my first answer was also no.
I kind of wanted to... So you and I, we're very rarely pithy, would you say, John? We have sassy stuff to say, but we're very rarely hater. And my first reaction was exactly... We had the same first reaction. No.
No.
Jesus. I mean, I'd rather see a remake than a prequel.
Which our prequel basically was.
Yeah. It should have just been a remake. Because it's doubly pointless. Oh, wait, this isn't a remake? Oh, so we already know what's happening. Because then a remake could go in a different direction, correct?
Even after people saw it, they thought it was a remake. Because it had a blood test scene, for goddamn sake. Like, yep. It had all the same shit.
John, do you have any fillings inside your mouth?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then how do I know you're you?
Right. And how do you know? How is the thing making teeth? That's a different question altogether.
Yeah.
Like it's forming when it had like that malformed, ill yet formed like dog, and it had like all those like Venom like comic book teeth. I'm like, if all those, because all those teeth, right, they look like Venom in the comic books. All these long, like innumerable teeth, right? So, but if it was on its way to forming it, you can't reshape a tooth. A tooth is not a biologic. So it made them, and then it just has to dump away all that calcium and start over. Like, why would it have made the teeth in the first place?
Whoa. Yeah. So we don't need a prequel.
Don't need a prequel.
We need John Bounty Hunter Levingood hunting down Chuck Mad Dog Finley.
I'll just be saying must kill Kreitz.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Where's
like in Critters.
Where's Finley at?
Right.
Oh, you're one of the bounty hunters from Critters.
Right. Oh, remember your old statement about Adrian Brody from Predators? Because you weren't very fond of his character. Like, I don't know where these predators are at. When he was using his deep voice all the time.
Where are they? John, I just want you, 100,000 years ago, you, just smoking 3 cigarettes at a time, walking around the spaceship going, where's Finley?
Sounds like it was made in the 90s.
Yep. And you have huge hair.
Real big hair.
Just big. We're talking like American Gladiators, the first go-around hair.
The Bold and the Beautiful, 1990.
Just rocking it. All right. So now we'll move on to Catherine Dilks. And she asks, who, if anyone, do you think was human at the end of the film and why?
This is a biggie. This is the big one.
Okay. John, you and I, we meet a genie. And this genie goes, guys, I'll let you know. I'm going to tell you right now who was human at the end of the thing, right? And you have to guess. And if you're wrong, I'm going to make you hang out with, I don't know. I'm going to make you start a Foghat cover band. I don't know, something terrible.
You would love that.
Yeah, I know, that'd be the best ever. I would get it wrong on purpose. I would make you hang out with John Bounty Hunter Levingood, and you're sitting to the side smoking 3 cigarettes, talking in a raspy voice. How's that sound?
Sounds horrible.
All right. So you have to say who, all bias aside, based on all the evidence, who is human? Do you think between Childs and McGreedy, Mac, who's human and who's an alien?
I think they're both human.
Now, okay, I do too. But I would have to say Childs, even though it's an obvious misdirect that he went somewhere else, but I didn't see a glimmer in his eyes. And if that's what the cinematographer was saying, I'm going to put I think they're not doing it. But I'm just going to throw that out there to be a contrarian and say that it's Kurt Russell, human, and Childs is one of them because he doesn't have a twinkle in his eye.
See, like, but if Childs was the thing, and it's down to Childs and MacReady, why walk up and announce yourself to MacReady?
Well, maybe he doesn't know if MacReady's been changed yet. Maybe he just likes Kurt Russell.
He's like, we can be friends.
It's a lonely life being, Chuck Mad Dog Finley.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sticking to my guns here. I think both are human, and the arguments that I've heard are just the arguments from movie fans, not from the movie makers, right? But people say like, oh yeah, but Kurt Russell hands him that bottle, and then Keith David sips it, but oh, he was making Molotov cocktails earlier. However, I don't think that was a Molotov cocktail.
No, that was whiskey. He knew he was dying, and he wanted to enjoy himself.
Well, and he almost took a swig of it right before he was surprised by Keith David's announcement of his presence. And when we last saw the Molotov cocktails, it was before the dynamite went off, and he dive rolled away from it. Remember when the creature came out and got the dynamite and everything? The creature exploded out of the ground where they were, and then he dive rolled. He didn't have a bag or anything on him or a knapsack, so he left them. And and then when he thought he was alone, he was going to take a swig, and then he stopped because he heard Keith David. A lot of people were saying, oh yeah, that must be the thing because that would have been kerosene. And I'm like, yeah, that argument only makes sense if you haven't seen the movie in a year.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, right? To me, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to presume that was a Molotov cocktail. Maybe that's the way I should present this. And the same thing with the breath. We talked about the breath earlier. You actually do see Keith David's breath, just not as consistently. There could be a lot of reasons. The glimmer in the eye. I don't. This is like what is it? This is an Ebert thing, and that was that filmmakers don't get to tell you after the fact what they meant.
Yeah.
Whatever's in the film, it doesn't matter. They don't get to say, oh, well, we did this and we didn't do this for that. No, you put it on the screen and it's like art. It's there for people to see or not see or to interpret how they want. So I really don't give a damn what the filmmakers say.
No.
It's cool to hear it, but in terms of elucidating how things are in the film, I don't think that should be a part of any evidence.
No, Carpenter hasn't said that. It was just the cinematographer.
Right,
and he was
one of the filmmakers.
And he was only referring to it as he was only talking about Palmer. He wasn't at the end. He said he wanted it to remain ambiguous towards the end about them. So he was backtracking on that. So he never said he said the ending was supposed to be ambiguous. He just pointed at the one scene with Palmer. So he wasn't exactly saying it. I'm just inferring like a brat movie fan. You said something. Now I'm going to go with it,
No, but I mean, but it doesn't matter what the filmmakers say. I think that nothing that any filmmaker says should be introduced to an argument like this.
It's like J.K. Rowling's with Harry Potter. She's just telling everybody everything.
Right. They can tell you what they meant, but if they're a crappy filmmaker, then maybe no one sees what they claim to be true.
Yeah.
It's either there for the masses to see or it's not. So, but yeah, I really think they're both human. But that's a good point. Yeah, maybe if Keith David was infected, he doesn't know whether or not Kurt Russell is infected, whether it's a hive mind or not. How does this hive mind work? It's not like, again, it's a computer network where all things are automatically updating all the time. It's not like they're psychic. That's a good point. Maybe that's a part of if he was infected, and Kurt Russell says, maybe we just sit here a while and see what happens. Then maybe that's why he's willing to. He doesn't know who or what he's talking to. But I'm still going to round back to, I feel that I don't have any reason to believe that either of them are infected.
Love it. We still haven't talked about the giant monster at the end that 50 people were controlling underneath the stage. We haven't talked about the CPR scene or the blood test. It's crazy. All right.
Everyone else talks about that.
Yeah, you're right.
But they're all great scenes.
Yeah. Let's cover other things. I like that. Want to get to Rob's insane questions, Robert Lamb?
When the thing does explode out, and it gets it pulls down the dynamite detonator thing, right?
Yeah.
The way that popped out and that sound that it made, that kind of locust sound and its tentacles, I feel like was aped by the gate when the demon prince came out of the kid's foyer floor in the gate. at the end. Steven Dorff movie when he was a kid. But like the way that it came out, its tentacles, the way it behaved, that, and actually Steven Dorff killed that thing with explosives too, right there in that scene. Just amusingly enough, there were a lot of scenes where you're watching this movie and you can kind of see the trickle down influence in subsequent like special effects scenes in other movies. And I always think that's cool when you see that.
Do you think Ernest P. Worrell, based on how strong he is, could defeat Chuck Mad Dog Finley?
Okay, so you're referring specifically to the strength that he exhibited in Ernest Scared Stupid when he was wrestling.
Also,
trained toward the troll.
He can also be electrocuted, right? And fly. And he got electrocuted. He can survive electrocutions. He's fulfilled.
He just might not be as conductive.
He fulfilled an ancient prophecy. And Ernest goes to. He can fly a sleigh with reindeer. And he is so strong that he can pick up. He can, do a lateral. Or no, it's not lateral. What kind of shoulder? He's holding that troll up in the air. His arms are straight out holding this troll that can literally pull a truck, and he's not struggling. So Ernest battles Chuck Mad Dog Finley. Who wins?
I'm gonna go with the Thing.
You think the Thing could assimilate Ernest?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
I think so.
I think Ernest would win.
But I don't think as highly of Ernest as you do.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so Robert Lamb asks, why did they split up at the end? So he's referring to Knowles, Gary, and Childs, and Mac. Now, Knowles, Gary, and Mac are spreading explosives in the cave. And they're in a rush, correct? They are in a hurry because they know it's soon going to be so cold that they're just going to die.
Right, because the Thing knocked out the power. Yeah. That's key. The Thing knocked out the power, so if they didn't rush, eventually they're all just going to freeze to death.
They had 6 hours, right, to do that. So they're in a hurry. There's a lot of territory to cover, but since you know all three of you are fine, wouldn't it be better for you to stay together?
Well, again, I think there's the urgency of the fact that you also know that one or two things are infected and are doing something somewhere. And the more time that you give it or them, the more time they might be able to work against you. You know that there's a spaceship being built. You know that there's one or two people infected wandering around.
When was Blair infected? Because the amount of work he put in on that spaceship is not a couple hours. It's not 3 hours. It's not 4 hours.
I think the whole time that he was in that shack, he was infected.
Do you think the night before they could have started building it and they moved him to that shack? So who infected him?
Well, it was McCready's idea to put him in that shack.
Yeah. So, but who infected him? Because at the time there were no, yeah. So as soon as he I think he destroyed those radios as a ploy. Because if they'd got a message out, hey, we are being attacked, there is something terrible, do not remove them, he could have isolated them to be like, oh, we can't let this thing get out. And then he enacted his plan. Do you think he could have been like that the whole time?
Yes.
Yeah. Because there's no way that spaceship gets built. Just logistic, right?
And don't get me wrong, like this is my opinion has gradually moved in this direction over many, many viewings. And it's really just watching it twice in the last week that's really solidified this for me. Because before, I thought he was going crazy, and then I thought he was just paranoid. And then later, oh, right, he's infected. And I never really thought back to when he got infected. But he did all that destructive stuff, and then they put him in isolation. And an isolation underneath that is where he had that ship. So I honestly, now that I think about it, I think that he was infected that whole time. The whole time.
Because I'm just saying logistically, right? This isn't, I don't even think this, I would love to know how many, because he had to find scrap. He had to, I would assume, solder everything together, correct? He would have to.
Something, yeah, right?
Like he would need to create a lot of heat. That spaceship had a frame that he molded.
There was more than a couple dozen man hours into that.
Yeah, and so the only people that could have, the dog didn't work on it. The only person that could have worked on it was the silhouette who was turned. Maybe potentially
Which could
Palmer.
have been him in the beginning.
Yeah, which could have been him. Palmer, right? Could have been on
Right.
working on it the night before. But I do love that scene though when he